Hey everyone. In this weekly recap, I'm going to walk you through the trades that I'm currently in, where my target and stop areas are, and I'll also go over the trades that stopped me out. So let's jump into the charts. So the first chart we're going to look at is VIK. This has been trending the 10, 20, and 50 EMA. After we came off those March lows, it moved up higher. And then starting mid-April, it just basically started moving sideways. But the EMAs continued to trend up. Then we had earnings. It gapped up and then it pulled right back into the 20 EMA. And here we have a huge increase in volume on this green day. We have an up-down ratio here on the right-hand side of 1.4, which is what I want to see. I want to see more buying on the green days and less selling on the red days. So here we are. As it broke above $84 is where I entered. I do have a first price target at 91.16, and my stop is just below 80.42. So generally for my first profit target, I look for a 2-to-1 reward to risk ratio. If I feel like I cannot get that, I don't even take the trade. I always want to be able to see on the chart that I can definitely get a 2-to-1 reward to risk. So this would bring me right up to the highs. I definitely think we can get up there, and I think we're going to keep moving higher. So that's why I entered the trade. All right, so let's look at another trade that I've been holding, VIRT. This one I entered on May 5th as it broke above 49.69, and I started taking profits at 53.22. I took some more off at 54.99. I almost got some more off at 56.75, but it decided to pull back instead. So I'm down to about a 10% position, and I'm going to see if it holds the 20 EMA. If it continues to hold, maybe make slightly higher lows in here, I will certainly add back shares and start riding that up even more. But if you look down here at the right-hand corner, again, you'll see the up-down ratio at 1.7. So there has been a ton of buying on this. So I'm looking for it to continue its trend. So VLO is another trade that I was in that I have since closed. I entered this trade on Friday the 15th as it gapped up from this 2 red day pullback. It had that small green bar holding that 20 EMA. So I entered on Friday. I really had considered taking some off at 257.57 because it is an energy sector. It's very volatile, but I saw that this was such a strong candle. The only thing I really didn't take into consideration was the fact that the volume was below average. So even though it was higher than the previous day, it was still below average. So even though the candle was strong, there really wasn't a lot of volume there. And I should have taken that into consideration and trimmed some at 257.57. Instead, it started to fall back and I ended up selling some right around, I believe it was like 253.50 right in there. So ideally, I'd wanted it to get to 266.75 for my first trim because I do like that 2-to-1 reward to risk. I don't like to trade 1-to-1. To me, it's really kind of pointless. But with a volatile sector, sometimes it just helps to relieve a little bit of the pressure to take some money off, because if it does gap down or a random tweet comes out, there can be a lot of volatile action. All right, so I'll go over the two losers that I had. JCI, so I had entered this on May 12th. Tuesday, May 12th, I had entered this. I had seen that since February, it had been going sideways, but it was on a rising 50 EMA. The 10 and 20 were rising. It came out with earnings. It did gap down, but it was bought back up and it started to go higher. So I got in thinking that it would go up with my first target at 153.47. However, it didn't turn out that way. It sold off and I was stopped out at 137.84. And lastly is ATI. This is actually a very similar chart to JCI, and it had the similar price action, moving sideways, rising 20, 50 EMA, and it's pulled back nicely into the 20. That's where I got in on Tuesday, May 12th, and then it sold off and I was stopped out. Since then, it has reclaimed and bought back up. but I didn't get back in because it had broken the 50 EMA. To me, it had kind of broken trend a little. I just wasn't comfortable diving back into this. So we'll see. Maybe this will pull back and reset up and I can catch it for the next leg higher. All right, guys, so that wraps up the weekly recap video. I will be back here next weekend to go over all of my trades.